Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heads and Dovetails with myself, Jill Harvey-Bush. And would you believe it, Jamie Hubbard seems to have got my sore throat for this episode.
Good grief.
So you sound very sexy, Jamie.
Thank you. I was waiting for you to say that. I thought if Jules isn't going to say it, listen to my sexy voice. I sound fantastic. God, it hurts.
I was saving it till I pressed record.
uh,
So,
so,
oh
oh
dear,
dear.
cough, cough. Good
Oh
start.
dear.
Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? You said you wanted
Jill,
to talk about something.
there's two things. The second one you'll hear about in a minute, and I've got to save that till last because I think people will just turn off and go, crikey, he's so crazy about this, which is really annoying me. It's really annoying me. It's a big rant. Anyhow, we'll get to that in a minute. I've sold my crocodile. I had a phone call a couple of weeks ago, and there's the Preston Musical Society were let down with their crocodile. A guy phoned me up and he said, "Have you still got the crocodile for sale?" And I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Oh," and we had Jill what was quite an honest. Now I know the guy's a businessman, but quite an honest view of value to the crocodile. Now, how do you put
Can
a
I just
value?
point, can I just point
Go on.
out to people who don't know about your crocodile that it's
Oh,
actually a crocodile you made for the pantomime. It's superb, and people should go and look at the YouTube video. We are not talking about a live crocodile that you were selling. I just
I've
want
got
to
to tell.
clarify that
Yeah, yeah,
because if
it's
people
not
don't know
real.
the history of us, they'll think
No,
Jamie's got a crocodile.
and I tell you what, I'll get to that in a minute. Anyhow, he phoned me up and he said, we had this chat, and this chat was value. What is it
Hmm.
worth? So there's going to be a worth to him and worth to me.
Hmm.
The crocodile has done four sort of performances. It's done Peter Pan, Hook's Revenge, a summer musical music day where they needed a crocodile for something, and a school panto. Great, Peter Pan. That's good. So for me, it's run its course, it's done its thing, and when you've had something a few years, you don't feel as close to it as you were.
Well, you feel as if you've got some value from it anyway, if you know what I mean,
Yes,
Jamie. From when you
yeah,
first make it and do it, and then you use it and it's used and it's loved by all sorts of people, and the appreciation is as much for me the value you get back from it as a monetary value. And then you're not so attached. It's like, I've done this, I'm really proud of it. That's work I did, you know, a couple of years ago, and you can emotionally let it go a little bit.
exactly. So we chatted about a price, and I'm not going to tell what price I sold it for, but anyhow, I was okay with this price. It was a round number
Hmm.
that I thought, you know what, that money in my account would look nice.
Hmm.
I didn't look at the hours in the piece and thought, right, how much am I getting per hour on this? Is it, does it
Mm.
owe me this much? They were desperate.
Mm.
Now, the thing is, what do you want to be in this case? Do you want to be somebody that pushes and extracts as much money out of somebody, or do you want to give it to them? And I thought I got the balance quite well.
Was it an amateur production then, Jamie?
Yes,
So again, you're looking at it's an amateur, they can't afford a huge amount, because your own wife is involved, isn't she, in Amdram.
yeah.
So you know all that history as well, which I think is great that you take into account.
Well, it is, yes, and that's what you've got to think about, isn't it? Some of
Mm.
these, and my worry with some of these small companies is they might have, let's just say, for example, they might have somebody, a tech guy or stage manager or whatever, who is so embedded in the company for so
Mm.
many years that if that person decides for whatever reason they can't do it all anymore, or suddenly that person can't do it anymore through illness or whatever, how do you replace that person?
Mm.
If that person is so embedded, does so much, and what I've found and what I've heard a number of times over the last few months is what then happens is people don't volunteer like they used to.
No, they don't.
there isn't a voluntary thing for that. There isn't an interest in it as big, as strong as it was. People want money.
Yeah.
People want paying for it.
Yeah.
And this guy came along the other day, and he had to take the crocodile away. And
So
one
did
of the
he come
things,
from Preston? He was going to come all the way from Preston.
yeah, he came all the
So
way from
again, you
Preston.
haven't got the problem of packaging it up or any of
No,
that.
no, and I wanted to take it there. To be honest, I wanted to deliver it to them to see their reaction, but I couldn't fit it in. It wasn't going to work with him.
Mm.
Wasn't going to work with me, with timings. But I said, look, if you come all the way to me, because we did a sort of think halfway.
Yeah.
I said, if you come all the way, it's another hour, and I can actually go through everything in the workshop. You can get in it, you can try it. I
Mm.
can show you in there. I don't really fancy doing that in a motorway service station.
Services. Yeah. Probably get arrested. Somebody, with poor eyesight going, there's a crocodile on the loose in the car park. Can you imagine?
I know, and something might break or
Yes,
something. Not that it
absolutely.
does. It's really well made.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple of breakages, and I was able to point out those breakages. This thing was made so that it was as light as possible, but it
Mm.
was also made so that it broke.
Mm.
So if there is pressure on it, that part will break.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather that part break than beef it all up, make it much heavier and much
Mm.
harder to move around, and it doesn't break. But the
Mm.
good thing is I made it so that it could easily be repaired. So there were hardly any screws. It was all glue, and the
Yeah.
glue these days, which is really worth knowing, the glue these days is so strong it'll actually break the wood apart,
Gosh.
so that you can then put some more new glue on that wood, glue it together, because it's fresh new wood, rather
Mm-hmm.
than breaking the glue joint apart
Mm.
and you're trying to glue glue to glue, which never
Mm-hmm.
works. Anyhow, they've had issues with some tech things, and they've had to spend more money because a friend did this and a friend did that. So I'm seeing it all the time, and I am concerned that these are getting too techy and not enough old school props
Mm.
where um where they sort of got together and worked on the props to make it work, and go back to a sort of more basic. Because if the tech guy goes, there's no
Yeah.
panto.
Yeah.
There's no panto, and that's wrong, really. I feel now that the tech should be minimal lighting, yeah, a few explosions, but you can have a pyro guy to do the little explosions. So if you can spread the tasks and think across more people,
Mm.
it's an easier run, isn't it? It's easier to
Mm.
handle if something goes wrong. Anyhow, I did meet with somebody who said, I told them how much I'd sold it for, and that person said, "You're mad. You're mad. You could have got a lot more than that." And I was just like, "Yeah, but it's sat there for 2 years, and it hasn't done anything for 2 years, and I'm happy." And then this little bit hurt when they said, "They'll sell that on for more than you sold it to them." And I was just like, So I've had a thought about that. And what my thought is that, and I said this to the guy when he came to pick it up, which is, look, I'll let you have it for this much,
Mm.
but it's affordable for you guys and it's affordable for others. I want to see this thing have a life.
Mm.
So if I sell it to you for this much, I'd like you to pass it on to somebody else for the same amount.
Yeah.
Keep that ball rolling. If you keep that ball
Pay it
rolling,
forward.
everybody
Everybody
knows the deal.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you buy it for that much and you can sell it for the same, you haven't even got a higher cost.
Exactly.
Now I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
I do as well, Jamie. But that's the mentality that you and I have got about pay it forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it means, in effect, I've sort of hired it, but I'm getting my money back because I'm selling it on to, it's better than hiring. You know what I
It's
mean?
it's a
It's because I'm passing
no-brainer.
it on. Yeah. And if it deteriorates and somebody passes it on for less, then that's fine. Yeah. No, I
So
agree with
so
you.
so yeah, that's so I've actually done the thumbnail. I'm going to try and get a video out. I'll get a video out for Sunday night. Um, about it. But in that video, I want to be pointing out as again, so that if somebody finds this video, I will say how much I sold it for,
Hmm.
and I will say you shouldn't pay more than this much for it.
Yeah.
Let's stop the greed.
Yeah.
Let's stop the greed. Let's
Just pay
pass
it
this on.
forward.
Let's do
Yeah.
something that because there is an element of greed in the theatre thing, in this sort of Amjam thing, because some of the higher up people within these companies are businessmen, and all they see is pound signs.
Yeah.
And the people at the bottom end, like the kids and whoever, the other ones that the ensemble, whatever, who just want to be there and enjoy it, they don't really see that, but they appreciate everything that's going into it. But if they knew, so I think if some of them knew the money side of what's going into it, and I'm sure a few of those would be question what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to get that video so it explains that. Just pass it on, because it's not an easy time to live in. And
No.
if you've got all this tech and all these things, and you do have one of those unexpected bills for the company, and then say something else happens, it could be the difference between you
Existing.
selling out and
Mm.
or going broke. You
Yeah.
could have to refund. Now, Preston Music Society, where they've had the crocodile, I looked on their website, first of all, to make sure they're real and all
Yes.
sorts of other things. They've sold out. They've sold out every performance. Now, if something
Great.
goes wrong, and that's the thing, if
Yeah.
something goes wrong, have they got to give all the money back? That
Well,
could
I would
cripple them.
presume, I presume so, but you just
Yeah,
hope that they've thought it through. And I mean, that's what happens, isn't it? If people cancel concerts or cancel things, then they get a money refund. Whether that happens on the venue they've hired, of course, is another matter. But I think
yeah,
it's great that it is a value system, isn't it? Of paying it forward, of going, let's just all help everybody out and stop the greed that's that's going on, if you like, in
yeah,
the world in lots of places. And I think we've got to be careful as well, Jamie, because it isn't everywhere. Unfortunately, we get skewed. So we know from the algorithm you get shown more and more and more, which winds you up more and more and more, rather than actually there's loads of people out there doing really good stuff who aren't
yeah.
being greedy, who are, money isn't the main thing for them. They realize that, money doesn't buy happiness. It
No,
might buy a bit of contentment, but do we really need, like, is it Elon Musk about to be the first trillionaire? I look at the billionaires and think, what do you do with your money? I think, is it Billie Eilish that gave away a lot of her money, saying, "Come on, guys, I've got enough money to
yeah,
live on. Why do I need all this?" And
yeah,
there are other people at the top who just quietly give away lots of money to charity. I know Ricky Gervais gives a lot away of his stuff, and you think, yeah, do you really need $1 trillion or pounds or whatever? I mean, how much do people need to live on? But again, it's all about values, isn't it? I don't need to spend. If I was having a wedding, I wouldn't need to spend 40 million or whatever. Just a figure I've plucked out the air. I don't even know if that's
no,
true,
it's
but
right. I think it's
on
right.
a wedding, so I must have seen it somewhere. And you
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
what? You know what? But yes, so I'm really pleased that you've sold it. I'm really pleased because, as you say, otherwise you look at it, well, it's taking up room in my workspace, my garage. I'm not going to use it again. If I just leave it there, it'll just, dare I say, sort of rot away or get to a point that it's not working properly. I'd rather somebody else got some use out of it. It's the
yeah,
same when I do, my upcycling stuff. It's I'm enjoying doing it. If I can earn something from it, great. If somebody
yeah,
else is also getting pleasure, great.
yeah,
No, I'm lucky. I think this is the discussion I had with the basket weaver teacher when I did my 2 days of willow weaving. I'm lucky that I'm at a stage where I don't need to make a living from
yeah,
it. And I think
yeah,
that's the difference. So I'm enjoying doing it. And yes, of course, I'd like to sell some of my pieces, but I'm not reliant on it for my living wage, if you
yeah.
like. So again, there's a different value system that goes there
There
for me.
is,
And
there
people,
is.
people like with willow weaving a basket. If people even went on minimum wage now, people wouldn't buy a willow basket. If it takes 2, 3 hours to make, I know some of them are getting much, much quicker, but even on a minimum wage without everything else that goes, the willow and I mean, I've lost track of the minimum wage. It's gone up and up and up now, hasn't it? And
Yeah,
you think, well, okay, if that's per hour and it takes me 3 hours to make this, and that's the experience willow weavers, takes me a bit longer, then even at the minimum wage, I don't know if it's £12 something well, there's 30, say 40 odd pounds for somebody under 18 just for their hours, let
fine
alone the
materials.
willow, let alone, the workshop that a lot of people have to hire. Not everybody can work from home, but then you've got your heating and your lighting, and it's soaking it, so you've got the soaking bath, and yeah, it would never be worth it. It's what I'm liking is this new trend. Of course, goes back to the lovely book, the community clothing, and everybody, and now putting on their garments how many hours it took to make it.
Yes.
So they're actually putting on a knitted hat. This took 2 hours or whatever to make. So you get the connection between the hourly rate that somebody's working at and the cost of the item that you're buying. And I think that's such a big missing link.
Yes.
That
and
people don't appreciate. It just kind of makes you go, oh, it's like they put calories, doesn't it, on menus.
yes.
This one is so many calories. Well, if somebody's looking at a hat and thinks, what, £10 for that woolly hat? And then realise it's taken at least 2 hours to make. And then they equate that to what's the minimum working wage, let alone the materials. You start to view things slightly differently. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, and remember, some of those people that are buying things, because they're in a position of buying something that's not a necessity, they've
Yeah.
obviously got a little bit more money around than somebody who would look at it and just think, I can't have that because I've got food to buy this week and
Yeah.
bills to pay. Do you remember my pet hate of the repair shop? My pet hate of the... Do you remember it?
Because it's the fact that they speed it all up so they don't see all the hours that are spent actually repairing something. So if you're seeing Kirsten with her china, they just do the shots, and then she says, oh, well, I'm going to now put all these pieces together and glue them. And of course, away the camera goes and it comes back and it's done. So people don't realise she spent all day doing that. Or I know with one of the willow weavers, she didn't know how to do something. So she had to actually go away and learn it and ask other people in the community and then come back. And it took a very long time to actually repair this thing. But again, it would be great if they could say in reality that took so many hours. Kirsten actually took
that was it,
a whole day, or Kirsten took 3 days to repair this.
My reference to the repair shop has been for a long time, always will be, if they just put near the end how much it was cost before it went in, how much it was worth when it went in, how much it was worth afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
No. Then because you've got to do it slowly, haven't you? There's a reveal, isn't there? Yes. What it was worth when it went into the barn, how much the restoration was, because that's the thing, and then what it's worth after, because those three figures can have massive differences. It could be worth £25. It could be worth 50 quid when it's finished, but it could have cost £450 to restore.
Yes. And I think that's the value. But they are, I mean, as I've said before, I'm very lucky. I have been on the repair shop and I have had an item repaired on the repair shop. So every now and then we get videos, because obviously the repeats come round.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just seen you on the repair shop. And I think the value that you can't put in is the sentimental value
100%
to the person. And some people would pay that to get that thing repaired, even though they say afterwards, well, it's only worth this. I mean, if you take the comparison to the Antiques Roadshow, when somebody goes in with Grandad's watch or something and finds out it's worth thousands, but they're not going to sell it, because actually you cannot put a price on the memories and the sentimentality of an item. And that's, I think, but it would be great to know, if you were paying to have this done, how much would it cost to actually have it done? And that might be quite nice. I mean, not to say to the people, because that's the programme. You wouldn't say, oh, well, this would have cost you X, Y, and Z. But it's also, it's also to let people know how long it actually takes.
Yes, 100%. And the problem is, there's that stupid programme that really drives around the bend, Money for Nothing, where somebody's going something to the tip.
Yes.
And they stop it going into the tip. Yes. And then they have somebody do something to it. And they go back to the person who was going to the tip and give them 60 quid or 300 quid. And I'm just like, hang on. This isn't this. My problem with this, Jill, is the fact that I've had people walk in my workshop and expect something restored for 20 or 30 quid, because they just don't know. They don't know because programs like the repair shop don't tell us the good thing about the Antiques Roadshow is sometimes they'll say something like, it's broken. You might spend £200 or £300 or £500 restoring it, and then it would be worth. And that's
Yeah.
good. That makes people think, and that's why the Antiques Roadshow is still around
Yeah.
after 60 years or something.
Must be. It
It's
must be.
still
It
around.
must.
So it's
Yeah.
got a
It's
winning
very.
formula. And
Yes.
that is the truth. That's current date. So it's that shock of how much old Uncle Bert's watch was or whatever. That's
Yeah.
the shock value, that the surprise that gets everybody captivated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There you go.
There you go. So
There
now
you
we're
go.
on to rant.
Oh,
On
chocolate.
what's your rant?
Chocolate. Blooming chocolate.
Oh,
And what
Jamie,
really
what?
did it
What?
for me,
Chocolate. I love chocolate.
I love chocolate, Jill. I try not to eat too much of it. I don't
So are
actually.
we giving a
Right.
warning here? This is a Jamie rant about
Oh,
chocolate.
good grief. Right. Okay. Beginning of this year, my
Yeah.
girl said to me, Dad, what do you want for your birthday? And I said jokingly, oh, a box of Star Bars would be great. Well, Chloe bought me a box of Star Bars,
Of course.
32 Star Bars. They
Oh, good
took me
grief.
3 months to get through. I
Only
did
three
enjoy
months.
them. I did. Well, I gave a couple away as well. Honestly, crazy. What's happened now is because of the algorithm, because of what you watch, what you
Hmm.
comes back at you.
Hmm.
There's a guy on Instagram doing a don't buy this chocolate because it's got palm oil. Cadbury's have replaced the milk with palm oil and these vegetable oils, and dairy farmers are going out of business. As many as 3 a day, I think.
There's
So
several people doing videos like that,
is there? Okay.
saying, look at the ingredients on the back. This is a good
Yes.
chocolate. This one's cheaper because, no, there's a lady, there's several of them
Right.
actually doing it, particularly some of the farmers about the dairies, yeah.
I
Anyway,
think
go
we've
on.
I think we've just got to seek them out, seek out the ones that are good, and hope that if they do have to increase production, they stick with where their values. Going back to values again, if they stick with their values, that'd be great. We can follow them for a long time and enjoy their chocolate. But the ones that are getting bigger, or probably it isn't getting bigger, it's probably just want more blooming profit. So they're not paying the farmers for milk, they're chucking palm oil in instead. And that's the sort of thing that is damaging us. We're
Yeah.
putting too much crap into our bodies with all the chemicals. As
Hmm.
some people are saying now, we're not eating foods, we're eating chemically
Yeah.
manufactured edible stuff.
Well, there's another one, isn't there, that I've seen that says we are the only species that spray our food to stop other animals eating it, but then we go and consume it. And I think that's a good point. We spray all our plants to deter, don't we, all the other little bugs and rabbits and goodness knows what from eating it, but actually we then go and consume it ourselves. I think it's a whole shift change that needs to, or a mindset change. But what you're up against is then the cost of living.
Yeah,
People will actually just keep buying because they like chocolate. And I think we talked about it on a previous podcast, We With I Whisper. Hadn't had one for years, went and had one and thought, ugh, that's horrible.
oh yes, you did.
And
Yeah,
that's again where the ingredients change so slowly over a period of time, which is what they do. They change them
yeah,
minute little deep bits
yeah.
over time, that when you're consuming that regularly. So if I'd been eating that Whisper bar, and there are other chocolates out there, if I'd been eating that Whisper bar continuously through those years, I wouldn't have noticed the
No.
change. But because there'd been a big gap, and then I thought, oh, do you know what? I really used to love these. And I took a bite and thought, oh, and it's as you said, because the percentage of kind of oils in it was awful. And I'm also now used to Clive and our treat is is 85% chocolate. So we're very much dark chocolate people, and I
Yeah,
can only eat one square of that. I can't eat the
yeah,
whole bar, which is
yeah.
also interesting. But like you say, for farmers and that, we've got to look at it, which is why, as you know, I'm very much into doing everything I can with sheep's wool. And I
Mm.
read a piece, with the wool pots people and that I am friendly with, that for the first time in years, the price of wool had gone up because demand is slowly increasing.
Oh,
And I
that'd be
was
good.
like, how great is that? That,
Yeah,
people are going back. Jamie, you could go on about it and you've set me off on a rant. You could go on and look at so many things. As we've said before, you look at any polyester or leggings, or there are
yeah,
organic cotton ones out there, but people say, oh, but have you seen the price of them? I can't afford those. But then we've got to look, and people say, oh, don't be ridiculous. I had this conversation with somebody not so long ago about, oh, don't be ridiculous, Jill. You can't absorb things through the skin. And I know that they buy very expensive moisturizers and creams. So I said, what do you mean you can't absorb things through the skin? Well, you can't absorb what's coming off your clothes through the skin. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's got to be completely wrong. Until I actually said, so if you can't absorb things through the skin, what makes you buy these really expensive moisturizers and creams for your face and body? Uh, uh, so they're not being absorbed by your skin. So what's the point of those then? So you're telling me all these adverts on TV saying it goes through the skin and all the rest of it, they're all lies? Why would they be allowed? I stumped them. I completely stumped
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Subject got changed very quickly,
We've
Jamie.
we've got to be careful, haven't we?
Yes, but it's down to the individual. I mean, there is marketing, there's social media, and that's why I like seeing the farmers coming on.
Yeah,
When you look at a pint of milk and you think, how can that be so cheap?
mm,
Logically, how can that be so cheap from the farmers? When all their equipment and their food and food prices going up, and then there's the transport, then there's the processing, then there's the packaging. Again, if you break all that down, how can this be so cheap? Another reason, I think, farmers, you want to be out there Christmas Day? You want to be out, milking at 5 in the morning, and as they say, they don't get holidays, etc. So it's nice for things like Jeremy Clarkson, as the farmers say. He's done more for people to
yeah.
gain an appreciation of farming
Oh, yeah.
than anything else. I think at the end of his last series, he was saying, you mean to say I've done all of this work for a whole year and my profit, because I'm now buying seed for next year, is £40? And Charlie, I don't know if you watched the series, but Charlie said, yes. He said, who'd do this? He said, luckily I am wealthy, so it's not, but as a business, who's doing this? And why would you spend all hours? So again, it comes back to value, doesn't it, Jamie? And
Yeah,
I think we've
yeah.
lost the perspective because of supermarkets and the way that they can drive down the price, or they'll say, oh no, we give the farmers a fair price. There was a bit of a push for the wonky veg and everything. To be honest, I don't see many of those anymore in the supermarket. It seemed to be like, a quick thing. Oh yes, we're now stocking wonky veg, and yes, we're helping take all the odd veg, etc. I don't really see those anymore. They seem to have
No,
disappeared.
greenwash.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Shut the people up. Give them a little bit. Shut them up, and then we'll carry on.
Yes, and we go back to where we were,
Yeah.
because this won't be acceptable, or this size isn't acceptable, or so. Yes,
Bloody hell.
I get your rant about the chocolate, but palm oil's going into everything, and it is
Yeah.
about cost, and that would be, I'm sure. Then you go round again. So I try and see every aspect, that people who don't have the money say, well, hang on a minute, why should we be punished because we can't afford the extra prices for the chocolate that I buy? So it's a real catch-22, isn't it? How do you break this cycle?
I think I've seen near Stourbridge somewhere, there's somebody, and I think their basis is they've bought up a couple of fields and they've sold them off as in parts of them as allotments for 30 or £40 a year. I think what we're going to see, especially
Mm,
with especially with councils taking up allotments, council owned allotments,
yeah,
and putting houses on them
yeah,
to bring money in,
yeah,
I think we're going to see more people doing what you're doing, what
yeah,
my grand my in-laws are doing, what my parents were doing, which is growing your own.
yeah,
Though I think we're going to see more people do that and saying, right, it's not really worth me growing this and that because I can go down the vegetable whatever and get those. But these other things that are quite expensive or the crop can go on for a longer period, I'll grow those. So I think people will start being more
But
selective.
it's also learning how to preserve stuff,
Yeah.
because people think, well, I'm never going to eat all of that. Well, with my tomatoes, you kind of go, there's no way Clive and I could keep up with the amount of
You'd look
tomatoes I
you'd
pick.
look like a tomato if you ate all of those, wouldn't
I
you?
would, but actually, but then when you look on my pantry shelf, and the jars are jars that I save through the year from jam
Yeah.
or marmalade or whatever, the jars on my shelf is enough tomato passata for just about a year. I don't think we've got quite enough for the whole year till we start picking tomatoes next year, unless we get a very sunny summer and I get on it, because I was late this year for obvious reasons with everything going on,
But
around the house. But I've got the shelf is full. I
you
went out and
could
picked
budget through
blackberries.
them.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. And you could budget through them, couldn't you?
That's
You could
right.
then look at them and say, well, actually, rather than opening 2 jars a week, I'll open 2 jars
Yes.
every 9 days, and
Yeah.
that will get me through the period. That's a
Yeah.
bit like me and my
I kind of
briquettes.
count and go, yeah, I count
Yes,
and go, if I've got 52 jars, then I know that's a jar a week. Some weeks I'll do
brilliant.
a tomato casserole, and I will do, a tomato-based casserole, and I will do pasta. I'll make a pasta
Yeah,
sauce. So I kind of go, okay, 52 jars, that does it. I made some spiced blackberry jam, which is incredibly popular with everybody. And a lovely friend, the best compliment ever was friends came and I gave them some of my strawberry and vanilla jam, and he loves jam. Roger Greenaway loves jam, and I gave them a jar, and he rang up. Clive was going to see them last week because they live in Surrey. He was going to go and see them, and Roger said, he said, one thing, Clive, please tell Jill her strawberry jam is the best I have ever tasted, bearing in mind he's in his 80s. And he said, there's some ingredient in there that I can't quite put my finger on. Luckily, I still had some jars left. So when Clive was going around to visit when I was dealing with my sister, gave him a jar, took him a jar. And Roger was just like, oh, and I'd put on the label strawberry and vanilla. So he knew. He said, this is amazing.
there
He
you
said,
go.
have I got to try and
Brilliant.
make this last till next year when your strawberries come in again? So anyway.
Isn't it funny? Just one last little bit. Isn't it funny that you're coming up with some really good recipes and really good ingredients for that, and at a sort of home base level, whereas the Michelin star restaurants that were doing those, some of them are going out of business. We're losing a lot of them. I've had no Michelin star restaurant in touch with me since, only one since COVID. And that was 3 years ago.
Well,
So
people can't afford it, Jamie. Again. But then you go back to the
yeah,
Hugh Fernley, Whittenstall and Riverford, and it is about growing. I just quickly, because we are over a half an hour. My parsnips, you saw I pulled. I don't know if you saw I pulled a couple of those a few weeks ago. And yes, there were a few, that had 3 legs or looked like aliens. But actually, when I peeled them, chopped them, blanched them, you wouldn't know any different.
no,
And we've got plenty, and they're in the freezer. And people are going, oh, I've still got strawberries in the freezer from
yeah,
May, June time, which will
yeah.
come out, and get used. Anyway,
That's what
there we go.
I'm just one one last thing again.
One
So,
more thing.
guess what I'm doing Saturday? I've got to go and buy 6 bottles of gin to make 5 different varieties of plum gin. That's my
Oh,
job on Saturday.
well, I must admit, again, one more
Get them
thing.
out the freezer.
One more thing, my apple cider vinegar. First year I've tried making apple cider vinegar.
You're good.
So some of them I've put into Kilner, so the really sealed jars,
Yeah,
and a couple of jars or bottles are screw top jars. Interestingly, the ones in the Kilner jars with the, where you pull down the top
yeah.
and it seals in, well, they were like champagne. When I opened it, completely surprised, it just went whoosh. So
Wow.
I think I did the video saying I'm not sure if I've made cider here or apple
Yeah,
cider vinegar. So I then added a bit of honey and a bit of turmeric. It does taste a little bit different, but of course, as I said to Clive, it will taste different to the ones that we've bought because we're using such a range of apples from the community orchard.
yeah.
So you can pick up apples, make your own apple cider vinegar. We've
That's
got half a dozen jars of that we have a spoonful every day. So I'm really getting into it, Jamie.
that's good.
Anyway. Anyway, that's it. That's another 2 weeks. Have we got one more, I think, before Christmas? I
Have we?
think
Oh, I don't
I
know.
think there's one more to go before Christmas, and then we'll have the Christmas break and go into the new year. Can you believe 2026? How did that happen, everybody? And
Um,
that's where everybody says, "Oh, December's rushing by. I haven't got time." I said, "Don't worry, January's coming," and everybody always complains about how long January is. So you'll have plenty of time to do everything. And of course, I love January. It's my favourite month. So I always have to have a go when people go about. And then I think you did a post about the people who are born in January have got the best brains. And I think, yes. So, of course, I only believe things on social media that are positive to me. I don't believe anything that's negative to me. Anyway, Jamie, as I say, sorry everyone, we're a little bit over time. I hope that's okay. Thank you to listening to us on Heads and Dovetails. And but go watch Jamie's Crocodile on his YouTube channel, which is the Worcestershire Cabinet Maker. Please go and have a look at that. It's amazing seeing it actually in panto. I'm just doing another project as well, which I shall start. And if I can remember to video it in the right format, we'll try and put that on YouTube, but we can talk about that next time. So thank you again. Please subscribe, please comment, please join us on Instagram if you're on Instagram, and any comments on there, and we can then mention you and give you all a shout out and answer any questions. Jamie, you have a good couple of weeks. Thank you
and
everyone
you too.
again, and we'll speak in, well, a couple of weeks. Well, it feels like 2 days sometimes, to be honest.
I know.
We'll speak again soon.
Bye.